Welcome into the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Jam-packed show for you as we are getting to the point now where spring practice is pretty much done. Got spring games this weekend. South Carolina spring game is this weekend. Georgia spring game is this weekend. Lots of spring games going on throughout the country this weekend. So, yeah, lots of things we're going to get into today involving that. Also, we'll talk about ESPN has ranked the top 10 running backs of the last 60 years. Very interesting list. We'll get into that. We'll also talk about another list that says 5 teams that will underperform this college football season. We'll see what those 5 teams are and how upset their fans will get up with me for bringing that up today. Also, the SEC has made some schedule changes for the upcoming football season. We'll get into that. College future bets in places where you can actually place bets. We'll tell you about some of those that look pretty interesting. We'll tell you about the new XFL head coaches. We'll also look into South Carolina's spring game and some of the stuff that we may want to look at for that as the Gamecocks play their spring game on Saturday night, wrapping up spring practice. But before we get into that, Nick Saban is saying some things that when you are the best coach in college football, people kind of pay attention to what you say. As Papa B's already upset about it, saying Saban crying after dominating the past decade. Boo-hoo. So with the transfer portal and NIL and all of that, which some people call free agency, Alabama head coach Nick Saban said during a recent interview with the AP, I don't think what we're doing right now is a sustainable model. The concept of name, image, and likeness was for players to be able to use their name, image, and likeness to create opportunities for themselves. That's what it was. So last year on our team, our guys probably made as much or more than anybody in the country. But that creates a situation where you can basically buy players. You can do it in recruiting. I mean, if that's what we want college football to be, I don't know. And you can also get players to get into the transfer portal to see if they can get more someplace else than they get at your place. That I laugh at this because in some areas, some of the bigger programs now, it may bring some of them down a level where they're going to have to compete to get some of these players to come in and play. Here's the thing, though, with Nick Saban. He's not going to have to worry about getting players. He never has. And this is a guy, too, that's used the transfer portal. Let's make sure we put that out there. What was it? Toto went from Tennessee to Alabama. So the idea that that Nick Saban is basically doing what Papa B said is kind of rich is the term that I'll go with. Here's the other thing too. Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin has essentially said the same thing. Dabo Swinney at Clemson has essentially said the same thing. I guess that when you're Nick Saban, though, it holds more weight. Saban says we now have an NFL model with no contracts, but everybody has free agency. It's fine for players to get money. I'm all for that. I'm not against that. But there also has to be some responsibility on both ends, which you could call a contract, so that you have an opportunity to develop in a way that's going to help them be successful. So, with that, do you think what Nick Saban said makes sense? Should there be more of a contract situation when it comes to going to a college? I think the worst I say the worst, but the one NIL story that really bit me was Quinn Ewers, who went to Ohio State, didn't take any snaps, and got what, over $100,000 to go sit on the bench and be a college student. That's insane. Yeah, I mean, I guess he practiced with the team, but he didn't take a snap in a game last year. What a mess. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number down if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400, around the world on the iHeart Radio app. I don't know if that's the way that you want to go there. Should there be a contract? 803-978-1832. Let's go out to the phones. Welcome into the Rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob. Let's keep comments about what Saban had to say. I think this NIL is beginning of the end for a lot of college football programs. I mean, how are some of these teams going to compete? It was hard enough, when you're having to build the facilities. Now you have to build the facilities plus pay them. And you have the transfer portal, which Alabama just used yesterday to get an offensive lineman from Vanderbilt.
I don't know. Maybe the idea of having contracts would be better. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, because how are you going to stop tampering? You know what I mean? If a booster at, say, Clemson wants this guy that goes to NC State and says, look, man, if you come out of Clemson, I'll give you a $150,000 deal on a new truck and a car. I mean, how are you going to stop that?
Well, I think who's to say that hasn't been going on before?
Yeah, but it hasn't been going on to the level of, we're talking about millions of dollars now. I mean, it went on before with $10,000, $20,000, maybe $30,000, but we're talking about getting up into the millions of dollars. We're talking about this quarterback from Tennessee who hasn't played his senior season of high school signed an $8 million NIL deal. Are you kidding?
I don't understand how you can input that much money into a high school player, especially considering the fact that he may go to Tennessee for a season and leave.
He may go to Tennessee and be a total bust.
Well, that could be correct too.
I mean,
you never know how good these guys are going to be until they get on the field.
No,
I've said that over and over and over again. But I mean, he's playing in high school against, the whole term man among boys and all that. Yeah, that's what he is now. When he gets up to Tennessee and he has to play against Division I players, how good is he going to be? Is he going to be worth $8 million? I don't know.
No, but I mean, do you think that there should be like a transfer portal, like the free agency? You have a timetable. You get to this point and you either have to be in the transfer portal or not, to like not have schools guessing what are they going to have to do after spring football.
I am all about players being able to do what's best for their education. That's different than, hey, I'm going to go and get Adidas money if I go here or there. So it's just, there's so many gray areas when it comes to this. But I do think there needs to be some, I don't know how you put a cap on it now. I mean, it's been the wild west.
If you play spring football,
mm-hmm.
you have to be with that team next season. You can't transfer out.
Well, so
until the
essentially,
next spring.
That's what Coach Saban is basically saying, is that it's a contract.
Well, I mean, but you got. Georgia had some offensive linemen leave. I guess they weren't going to be the starters, but there should be a date to where that not only the coaching staff but the players know where they're at. and you can transfer by this date. But if you don't, you're stuck in that school next year, unless you just don't want to, pay your own education if you want to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of understand that, but I mean, once again, the cat's out of the bag now, and once the cat's out of the bag, I don't know how you put it back in there. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, because I think down the line, it's just going to hurt other sports that are at the schools because that money's going to dry up. I mean, Clemson is starting a women's gymnastics and lacrosse programs.
Right.
And now I know people that are saying, okay, am I going to donate money to that, or I'm going to have to donate money to football recruiting?
But they have to have the same amount of scholarships, the whole Title IX thing, which I don't want to get into that today. But I mean, they have to have that across the board. So, and I think you can donate to whatever one that you want. I think that's how it works out.
Well, you can. I mean, I'm just saying that if say just me individually, I was
Right.
going to donate money to the women's gymnastic program, but now I say, you know what? If I don't donate my money to this foundation that's out there, we're not going to be able to recruit good football players. Where am I going to put my money now?
Well,
Am I going to do it in women's gymnastics, or am I going to do it in men's football?
Well, I mean, football is the revenue generator. That's where a lot of folks are going to put their money. But I do think there is an area where non-traditional sports, you can get some bang for your buck is the best way to put it. I know that what was it? Oregon had the twin girl basketball players, and they signed contracts with Boost Mobile, and they had them dribbling basketballs and stuff like that. So, I mean, it all depends on what you want to do, to be honest with you. But I think the cat is out of the bag, though, and I don't know how you're gonna reel that back in now. I really don't. I think if you try to, you're gonna get sued.
Well, I mean, how about if a player, doesn't get the money that the booster promised him, and they're going to have lawsuits going in between players and boosters, and it's going to be insane.
Okay, well, look, on that front, welcome to real life. You're 18 years old. Just because you're a stellar athlete, there are guys that are 18 years old that go into the Army or go into whatever branch of the military, and they can sign their lives away and be sent to a foreign war and be killed. Okay, so the idea of, hey, Joe's Crab Shack decided to stiff a football player for some endorsement money doesn't really hire an attorney. That's real life, in my opinion. I mean, that stuff doesn't bother me at all. They get the money, they got to learn how to deal with it and deal with it accordingly.
Yeah. My wife wanted to watch some Clemson football last night, and we wound up watching the 2015 Orange Bowl when they played Ohio State. And I was looking at all the 2-star and 3-star players that Clemson had on that team. It's a lot.
Yeah, but they won games though.
Yeah, they won a lot of games.
Didn't they beat that? That was the Ohio State team with Ezekiel Elliott and all those guys. I mean, it just shows that Billy online was saying, so bowl games don't matter and stars don't matter. In theory, no, they really don't. I mean, I use the best example of this is the best quarterback to play at South Carolina, in my opinion, is Connor Shaw. And I think he was a 2 or a 3-star player. I mean, it's just the stars don't always mean everything. They just don't.
Mm-hmm. And I know that, that the students got stuff from bowl games. I mean, are the bowl games going to have to really recruit the players now to not opt out of these bowl games?
I don't know.
Sweeten the pot up for the little gift bags.
Yeah, the gift bags are insane, but I don't know how that's going to work either. I mean, and look, the bowl games I think are going to get to a point where the team that you see play the Saturday after Thanksgiving, that is unless they're in the college football playoff, you just have to go into it thinking that is the last time I'm going to see this team. Whoever they play in rivalry weekend, that's the last game. And because after that, I think that the bowl games are going to be basically game one of the next season. Who can I run out there that, why, if you're a coach, why would you play any of your seniors in that bowl game? Run out the other guys so they can get some snaps so you can see what you got for the upcoming year. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the way that it works.
Yeah, but it's just it seems like there's only going to be 10 teams that are going to be really in the mix for the national championship. I think going forward.
Well, I mean, when you really stop and think about that, though, getting into that mix is hard. Staying there is harder. Remember, LSU won a national title in what, 2019, and then they've
Mm-hmm.
won 11 games since then. So winning it and then staying there is not as easy as it looks.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good day. All right. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Shout out to the folks in the chat room. Some of them are smart. Billy's a good chatter. We'll leave him with that. We give out the Rob Awards at the end of July. Billy will be up there in the mix for best online commenter. Peg and Megan will not, because everything Peg and Megan says is stupid. Slim Shady Canes is a good commenter. Yeah. Anyway, check out the chat room. It's very cool. They go back and forth over there. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. If you want to talk about what we said here with Nick Saban, saying that basically we have NFL free agency without the contracts. Do we need contracts? 803-978-1832. I have in my hand 5 teams that ESPN says will underperform in the upcoming college football season. We'll talk about that when we come back. I've also got some college football future bets that are interesting, to say the least. We'll get into that. And the top 10 running backs of the last 60 years. These are so interesting because there are so many running backs, and to narrow it down to 10 is pretty interesting. So we'll talk about that. This is a very interesting list that is out there. Get some debate on this too. 803-978-1832. Don't forget, we're brought to you by Mazda of Columbia, MazdaofColumbia.com. Go by and see my buddy Greg Hood. Get yourself a car. Get it before the inventory dries out, because with the stuff that's going on with the COVID in Shanghai and all of that, everything's getting shut down again, ladies and gentlemen. So go, if you need a new car, you better go get it now. Mazda of Columbia, MazdaofColumbia.com. If you would like to get yourself a car, and they support the show. But yeah, we're going to talk about teams that will underperform. And someone's already chiming in with the number 1 running back. These are college running backs now, not NFL running backs. Make sure we put that out there. Number 1, they say, is Jim Brown. Okay. We can entertain Jim Brown, but we'll go with that in a moment when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Justin hates Tennessee. Okay. Yes, I said Peggin. But I mean, are you deaf in addition to being stupid? I mean, Helen Keller was blind and deaf, but she wasn't stupid. I mean, you've got the whole trifecta there. I disagree with you, Brandon. You think he was the best college running back, Billy? O.J. Simpson was the bomb in college. Yeah, he's a notable cutter. Oh, goodness. Respectfully, I never said the Clemson offense was good under Uiagalelei. Justin, no. baseball is a very baseball is a sport where you can have an off day, but Tennessee's 31-1. I don't know how. I mean, if Alabama gets them, is the series at Tennessee? I think it's at Tennessee. If it's at Tennessee, I'm going to say no. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Top 10 running backs since in the past 60 years. This is from ESPN. Number 10, ladies and gentlemen, is Reggie Bush. Of course, he played at Southern Cal. I can't put Reggie Bush on the list because my thing with Reggie Bush is the whole cheating thing at Southern Cal, which nowadays doesn't matter. So maybe I should put him on the list. But he did return his Heisman Trophy from 2005. 3,169 rushing yards, 1,300 receiving yards in 3 seasons. That's pretty good. Number 9 is Earl Campbell at Texas from 74 to 77. Led the nation with 1,700 yards, scoring 8 touchdowns in 1977. Number 8 is Bo Jackson. Now, personally, I think Bo Jackson should be higher on the list, but he did have some injuries, but in his senior season, won the Heisman, rushing for 1,786 yards and 17 touchdowns. Mike Rozier from Nebraska in the early 80s. Nebraska was running that wishbone offense, though, so that's like, I mean, you're going to get numbers there. Not to throw shade at Mike Rozier, but it's like that wishbone offense is the equivalent of being a running back, and that is the equivalent of being with what Texas Tech used to do. So I think the system gives you a lot of yards. Number 6 is Tony Dorsett from Pitt from 73 to 76, 2 1,600-yard seasons and a 2,100-yard season. Yeah, Tony Dorsett was pretty good. Number 5, cutting right into the top 5, is O.J. Simpson, 1967 and 68. Rushed for 1,880 yards, 23 touchdowns, and a Heisman Trophy in 1968. Number 4 is Ricky Williams from Texas. I mean, he's got his own line of pot now, but ran for over 6,000 yards in his career, broke Tony Dorsett's record when he came back to to Texas as a senior. Can't argue those numbers, man. But he was dominant the more and more I think about it. Number 3 is Herschel Walker from Georgia. 1,616 yards, 15 rushing touchdowns as a freshman, and he did finish his career with a Heisman Trophy. Number 2 is Archie Griffin. Averaged 20-plus carries, 135 yards a game for 3 straight seasons. Became the first player to win the Heisman Trophy twice in 74 and 75. And finally, the number 1 running back, ladies and gentlemen, according to ESPN for the last 60 years, is Barry Sanders at Oklahoma State. Sanders posted 3,556 rushing yards, 49 touchdowns in his career. His final season was unlike any other. He had at least 3 touchdowns in 8 games and 300 yards in 4. So, yeah, I'm buying Barry Sanders up there. I really, really am. The only names that I really think you can make an argument for any of these names to be in the as far as in the top 10. I think that if you go back and you look at Bo Jackson and Herschel Walker, I think they probably should have been a little bit higher. Although the Big Ten folks will tell you Archie Griffin basically invented football. But Barry Sanders at number 1, just from that one stat, he had 3 touchdowns in 8 games. Wrap your head around that. For 8 games, you're going to get 3 touchdowns. Jay Online says Eric Dickerson. I'd have to look up his stats. But yeah, he was a dominant back as well. Who's left out? You can chime in 803-978-1832. Billy says, no way. Talking about Jim Brown. Jim Brown played, I believe, at Syracuse. To pull out my stuff and look up his numbers. Emmitt Smith at Florida. That's an interesting one. Why am I saying Emmitt Smith at Florida? Emmitt Smith didn't play at Florida. I'm thinking, I don't remember where Emmitt Smith played, to be completely honest. But I think Jim Brown played at Syracuse. I don't know if he put up the big, huge numbers there that you see with some of these guys. Brandon says, what about George Rogers? He beat out Herschel Walker for a Heisman. George Rogers was a special player, man. He really was. So, I don't know if George Rogers needs to be in the top 10. But if we had the top 20, then yeah, I mean, maybe George Rogers is there. Let's go out to the phones. And welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something, guy.
What?
How you gonna call a list and you don't know where these players played at?
I know where the top 10 played at because I've got it right in front of me.
Emmitt Smith played at the University of Florida. He's from Pensacola, Florida.
Well, he obviously didn't.
High school.
He obviously didn't value an education, or he'd have went somewhere else.
Oh yeah, right. You don't even know where these guys coming from.
I know where the top 10 came from.
Stop
I know that my top 5 are on the list. I know where they came from.
Well, you probably running around with diapers on then anyway, so you wouldn't know about
that. I know that even in diapers that I didn't want to go to Florida. I know that.
Yeah, I know one thing. You don't know where these guys playing.
I know where my top 5 are playing. I know that.
Oh yeah, right.
I know that. I know where the top 5
and
are.
And that list what you got is bogus.
All right, why is it bogus, sir?
Running backs, I can name a bunch of them.
Okay, well, give us your top 5, sir.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay, because you don't have a top 5?
You can't get top 5. It was too many great ones.
Okay, well, that's why we have a list.
Your list is garbage.
It's my list is from ESPN, sir.
ESPN list is garbage.
All right, well, you can tweet at ESPN and tell them.
No, I'm not going to tweet ESPN nothing.
Okay, fair enough. Anything else you'd like to add for the program today, sir?
There's so many great running backs. That top 10 or 20 or whatever it is.
Then tell me who you want to add to the list. You said there's a lot of great running backs. I gave you 10.
I can name a bunch of them.
Okay, well then give me 1 or 2 of them so you can contribute to the conversation besides saying that all of them are trash. Tell me who you'd like to have.
Oh, man, it's too many. It's just too many. I just couldn't do it.
You couldn't do it.
It's too many.
Fair enough. Too many running backs. Right. Got it. Thank you, Hollywood. Welcome into the program. Good afternoon.
Rob, sir. How are you?
Hey, what's going on?
Well, first of all, nobody cares about the University of Florida. And moving on to what Nick Saban said, I think there's already somewhat, if you want to call it that, a contract in place.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a scholarship.
Yeah.
Those by definition, by law, actually are contracts. And I think if some of these athletic directors and university presidents would grow a little more of a backbone, they could take care of the problems, people like Saban and Dabo Swinney are worried about. And they could also take care of the problems your first caller was talking about, like opt-outs. Because all you need is one AD to be the bad guy when a player is talking about opting out and just say the 3 magic words, breach a contract.
Oof. Yeah, I don't know if that's the way. I mean, that sounds like the way to do it, but the idea of trying to fix opt-outs and everything else is just, it seems like, I mean, I can't remember who the first one was. I think the one that really hit me that I remember off the top of my head, and I was like, wow, was Christian McCaffrey at Stanford, where he's like, yeah, I'm not playing in the bowl game. I'm waiting for the first player to say, you know what? I'm not going to play in the college football playoff. And I'm not talking about like, a wide receiver. I'm talking about like when a quarterback comes out and says, you know what? My NFL career means more to me than playing for a national title. I'm wondering when that's going to happen, because if I'd have told you this was happening 10 years ago where guys were opting out, you would have laughed at me. But I think we're going to get to a point where someone's going to opt out of the national championship game or just a CFP game, and it's going to be a gong show.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't surprise me at this point if it hit something like that. But I realize the vast majority of people, think the universities are just doing these kids flat wrong. People need to stop that. Okay, you're getting. I mean, in the case if you go to one of these private schools, you're getting up to $500,000 worth of education for free. You're getting room and board for free. These guys are on specialized, especially for football players. They're nowhere near going hungry. I mean, they're on special diet plans.
And I get frustrated with that because people that say that, oh, they're worth more than the scholarship that they're getting, obviously they don't pay student loans. And it's like, right. I mean, I'm serious. Like, we're still paying on my wife's student loans and we're in our 40s. So wrap your head around that for just a minute. They can leave the university with a degree, and that's not worth anything. Are you out of your mind? I mean, that's just insane to me. But I the cat's out of the bag, though. The whole scholarship thing, maybe that we should go at it from this route. All right, look, you can go and get all the NIL money that you want, but we're not paying for anything. You pay for your own room, you pay for your own board, pay for your own classes. Oh, by the way, you got to pay for your own tutors and everything else. Go.
Yeah, well, and even beyond that, the people that talk about, okay, the NCAA needs to give them something, they do. Those players, specifically players I know, they get a $2,500 a month stipend from the NCAA.
Well, I did the math the other. I checked it out the other day, and it comes out to, if they get the Alston money and they get the regular stipend that's at most universities, it comes down to, as far as cash money, they get $229 a week. That's what they get. So,
yeah, but I mean, I know some players that got money from the NCAA because they grouped in together to rent a house off campus.
Right. Well, that's if they do their own housing and stuff like that. But just a round number is $229 a week is what the average Division I football player would get if you go to a Power 5 school and you get the Alston money and the traditional stipend. But everything else is paid for, and you get $229 a week to go to practice and do what you're supposed to do. So
right.
There's that.
And I mean, I'm all for them getting their NIL money because, and I said that for years. How many jerseys are they selling with somebody's name on it? That I think, okay, it'd be fair for them to see a cut of it. But
well, I think that they should be able. I mean, the idea, like the one story that I remember was the Central Florida kicker had a YouTube channel, and he got paid because he got a lot of hits on his YouTube channel, and they were like, "Yeah, that's a violation," and that's just stupid. But the NCAA, they're dumb on top of dumb anyway. I think we get the dumbest people on the planet, and then we just basically tell them, you get to go work for the NCAA. It's the final casting system we have in our country.
It wouldn't surprise me. And it also explains why a lot of people get away with some things and other people don't. Because I'll leave you with a little parting food for thought. Year after year, it seems something seems to come up at Alabama, but nothing ever gets made of it. For people that don't remember, the president of the NCAA and Nick Saban go back a long way.
Yeah.
Because when the president of the NCAA was the chancellor of LSU, who did he hire to be the football coach? His good buddy, Nick Saban.
Well, we could talk about nepotism and all of that and it comes down in life, and even with outside of the world of football, it's not exactly what you know. It's more along the lines of who you know. And I mean, I don't know how to get past that either. We can't change the world in one show, but yeah, I agree with you, brother. We can try. Hey, I appreciate you calling, man. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
All right, there you go. 803-978-1832. Quick break. When we come back, more of the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Nick Saban doesn't have a laptop. Stop it. Yeah, Brandon, I said it. I said Will Muschamp's a terrible head coach. Tell me where he was a good head coach. I'll wait. I don't. I mean, look, here's the thing. And I learned this when I started doing the podcast with the comrade a long time ago. If everything that I say can come back to bite me because people will remember it. So you could find where I said, yeah, I think Will Muschamp's terrible. I stand by that. So yeah, I completely stand by that. Billy off the top rope. And Megan, you want him coaching your program, you can have it. Maybe he can go take over for your secondary program at Texas A&M when Jimbo Fisher goes to the crapper. There are lots of guys that won 11 games at a school. Didn't McElwain win 9 games at Florida, 10 games? Come on, man. Who's crying, Megan? Still crying, Megan. What Jetmex said is fair. Megan can't even type. 803-978-1832, talking about the top 10 running backs of all time, according to ESPN. Quickly back down the list. Number 1, Barry Sanders. Number 2, Archie Griffin. Number 3, Herschel Walker. Number 4, Ricky Williams. Number 5, O.J. Simpson. Tony Dorsett at 6. Mike Rozier at 7. Bo Jackson at 8. And Earl Campbell at 9. And Reggie Bush at number 10. I'm going to ask my colleague in the morning, Mr. Teddy Hefner, who was on the South Carolina beat back in the 80s, what he could tell me about Mike Rozier, because I'm sure Teddy Hefner's got some great stuff on that. Jacob says Herschel Walker is not number 1. No, sir. I didn't make the list. This is from ESPN. Please tweet at them. Herschel Walker is number 3 on the list. So, yeah, there's that. All right, so ESPN also came out with 5 teams that will underperform in the 2022 college football season. And here they are. Michigan. Now, I think that people may be thinking, all right, Michigan broke through last year, beat Ohio State, made it to the playoff. Okay. They say the program hit new heights under Jim Harbaugh, but being able to repeat those feats is going to be tough, especially with the loss of the defensive side of the ball, including Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo are off to the NFL. So they think that Michigan's going to be a team that is going to underperform this year. They've also got LSU. LSU, of course, went 15-0, won a championship, and they've won 11 football games since then. New head coach, new system. Brian Kelly's been able to win pretty much everywhere he's went, but they think that LSU is going to come up short this season. They also think Notre Dame is going to be a team that will not perform as well. They lose Kyle Hamilton, Kyron Williams, and some defensive linemen. Their schedule includes Southern Cal, Ohio State, and Clemson, which makes it kind of tough for Marcus Freeman in his first year. So the 4th team on the list is the Texas A&M Aggies. And I love the write-up on this. Expectations are going to be sky high for Texas A&M this year after signing the number 1 recruiting class. Barring a couple, it's hard to expect those true freshmen to contribute right away. The quarterback battle will determine a lot as well. The SEC West is still the West. even with another team in the division on this list. Playing Alabama, Arkansas, and Ole Miss is not going to be easy, not to mention a cross-division game against Florida. The pressure is on Jimbo Fisher. I didn't say that. ESPN did. And the final team in that top 5 that they say is going to underperform this year is the Georgia Bulldogs. Entering a season as national champions for the first time in 4 decades, some might think the pressure off of head coach Kirby Smart. He would most likely tell you differently, saying the Bulldogs will be looking to repeat and get a dynasty rolling. ESPN thinks it's unlikely, using the term underperform when it comes to having a national championship level team. See, here's the crazy part about that. If you don't win the national title, then you've underperformed from the year before. So that Georgia team with one of the most special defenses ever, if you don't, with those guys gone, if you don't win the national title this year, you're underperforming. Here's the thing. If Georgia wins the SEC this season, and I mean, that's still at a championship level. I mean, just because you don't win the national title doesn't mean you're not one of the top 10 teams in football. Now, there are going to be people that are going to go out there and they're going to say things like, let's say Georgia wins let's say they go to the SEC championship game and they fall short and they end up in, I don't know, in sort of New Year's Six Bowl. People will run their mouths and say things like, man, Georgia was a one-hit wonder and Georgia's fallen off the planet, and look at what Texas A&M did with their recruiting class, and maybe Texas A&M's going to be that next team that challenges Alabama. It's like nothing is ever good enough. Being a top 10 team, finishing in the top 10 in recruiting rankings, winning a national title, they're still in trouble. They're still in trouble. That's the vibe that we'll get. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Peggy Megan says, bet we don't go to a Cheez-It Bowl. Well, we'll see. Who knows? Bowl games don't matter. I stand by that. More of the rundown in just a moment. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. I did call him a failure for that. I mean, people heard me say it last year. I understand you guys love Kirby Smart. I don't have to like him, though. Don't have to like him. I mean, you guys have to like him. I don't have to like him. You Georgia fans have to love him. I don't have to love him. I can respect what he's done, but I don't have to like him. Damn it, Jay. There's the line of the day right there. Jay wins. That's up there with the West Virginia flower comment from yesterday. I'm sure Alabama's spring game will be on TV. Jet Mech, I don't think we know enough about Florida to say that they can just handle Utah. I don't think that's a very fair thing to say. I wish I could. I want a women's golf visor. Come on, man. Give me a ladies' golf visor like Kirby wears. (803-978-1832), 803-978-1832. The comment of the day, I have to give him credit. And we're talking about, what was it? Make sure I read it verbatim. Kirby Smart picks quarterbacks like Rob chooses what to eat. Very good, Jay, online. Wow. 803-978-1832. Let's finish the show today with bold college football future bets. Now, I'm going to give you some predictions here. You tell me if you would bet on them or not. Rick says I eat nothing but kale. Very good. I'm trying to be more healthy. Look, I've got my grapes here. Eating my grapes. Trying to get my fruits and vegetables in today. Anyway, y'all gonna be, everybody over there making Rob chunky jokes. As hard as I'm working out and the way that I'm actually logging my food in a food diary and all that, when I get like skinny as all get out and I can wear like a and look really good, y'all gonna be over there being like, man, I can't go live on YouTube or Facebook or whatever because I look like 18 pounds of chewed bubble gum. Y'all gonna be seriously. I trust my coach. She's got me working hard. Anyway, for the Heisman Trophy, Bijan Robinson at Texas plus 5,000. Would you take that bet? Kirby says, Rob, don't steal our women. That's funny. All right. Anyway, Bijan Robinson from Texas for plus 5,000. For the Heisman Trophy, Jackson Smith, Njigba, the wide receiver from Ohio State, plus 6,000. I butchered his name. If his mom's listening, please let me know. 803-978-1832. Also for the Heisman Trophy, Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back for Alabama, he's at plus 6,000. Another Heisman Trophy candidate that you can actually bet on this in Las Vegas, Sean Clifford, the quarterback at Penn State, he's at plus 10,000. Everyone's like, no. Very good, sir. Also with the Heisman Trophy, Cade McNamara, the quarterback at Clemson. At Michigan. Why am I thinking Clemson? Plus 15,000 for Cade McNamara. You guys taking that? Jetmec asks, UF spring game is tonight. Will there be a breakdown on tomorrow's show? Yes. Our spring game correspondent, Hollywood, has agreed to call up and break down the Florida game tomorrow. The Florida spring game tomorrow. I will not be watching the Florida spring game tonight. I'm going to watch the Braves and Padres. That's what I'm watching. Or reruns of Andy Griffith, or reruns of Matlock, or I don't know. Insert rerun of whatever. I might watch some Ed McMahon and Star Search from years ago before I watch the Florida spring game. Anyway, for the Heisman Trophy, Stetson Bennett, plus 20,000. Why not go throw $10 on that? I mean, he won the national title. Nobody thought he would do that. Anybody betting on Stetson Bennett? Plus 20,000. Ohio State is your national champion, plus 5,000, plus 500. I could see that. Clemson as your national champion, plus 1,000. Go drop $20 on that. Why not? Texas A&M national championship, plus 3,000. Now here are the interesting ones. Rutgers, the Scarlet Knights, over and under for 3 games. I think they'll win 3 games. Also, the Stanford Cardinal over and under is 4 for Stanford. And the final one, over and under Vanderbilt at 2. 2. The Commodores have non-conference games against Hawaii, Elon, and Northern Illinois. I think Vandy wins those 3 games. Out of all the things that we've had to bet on here, I would bet Vanderbilt wins more than 2 games. I mean, they did convince 6 people to transfer into that program that may help out that roster a little bit. Here's the better bet. Will Vanderbilt win an SEC game this year? Now that, could they get somebody? And don't laugh, they got Mizzou a couple years ago. They could get somebody. I think they can win those non-conference games. Hawaii, Elon, and whoever the other one was. Some team that I don't know anything about. But they should be able to compete there. Who is it? Was it Hawaii, Elon, and Northern Illinois. So you're going to beat a directional school from Illinois, Hawaii, and Elon. I wonder on this front about one thing. You know, if you go, Vanderbilt's program gets the same amount of payout on the football front from the SEC that Alabama gets. But they sure don't invest the amount of money that Alabama invests. I mean, we don't really know for sure because they're a private university. But sometimes it seems like they don't even really try on the football front. But they still get that big check, though. I wonder if there's some folks out there that are like, you know what, maybe Vanderbilt shouldn't be embarrassed in the conference so much, especially if they lose to a directional school from Illinois. Maybe they'll do what happened to Temple a long time ago when they were booted out of the Big East. Not saying, I mean, there are things that Vanderbilt is good at in the SEC, baseball. But in the end, man, that football check they get the same amount that Alabama gets. Imagine that. RMF Todd says Vandy puts all that money into women's bowling. I don't know if they... I don't know. They're a private school. So there's that. Billy says Vandy players can read Cat in the Hat. So is that where all the money goes? They put it into the actual players actually getting an education? Okay. Fair enough. Billy says Vanderbilt baseball brings in huge money. Yeah, but not nearly the level that football brings in. And let's be honest, college baseball is a regional sport. I love it. But in reality, it's only played in a portion of the country. I mean, up until last weekend, Notre Dame had 3 games on campus. At the end of March, they had 3 games on campus because it's snowing. It's snowing. They can't, the weather doesn't allow it to happen. All right. Anyway, I pulled notes on South Carolina. Oh, man, I missed that. Sorry. We'll talk about South Carolina tomorrow and what to expect from their spring game. Hollywood says he's calling in tomorrow to recap the spring game from Florida. As I said, I'll be watching, Andy Griffith reruns, maybe Murder, She Wrote reruns. I like Murder, She Wrote. Used to watch that with my grandmother. Nothing wrong with watching Angela Lansbury running around cracking cases. What else could I watch? There's no NBA tonight. That just threw everything off. So I got the Braves game, Murder, She Wrote, Matlock. What else could we go with? Florida fans think I'm just picking at them. I pick at everybody. All right, tomorrow on the program, we'll look at South Carolina spring game. We'll also look at the other spring games that are going on around the country as we wind down spring practice. All right, no Lawton Swan today. Lawton Swan is lazy, and he's taking today off. He's also taking tomorrow off. Please tweet at him, at Clemson Sports, and tell him, get your lazy butt back on the radio. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. Be sure to tweet at me there. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Billy comes in late. That's great. That's top shelf there, Billy. Good stuff. Hey, I appreciate y'all. We'll see you guys later on.